Hello, welcome to this video on simplifying expressions with rational exponents. So the first example we have is the sixth root of the whole fraction x to the 21st y to the 13th over x cubed y to the 7th. So simplifying this, there's a couple of different routes you can take, different rules that you can use. First, you're going to use the same basic rules. It really just depends on what order. I like to work inside out and simplify the inside as much as I can before I work out. And so we have x to the 21st in the numerator and x to the 3rd in the denominator. So we can simplify that. Remember, if we have a power divided by a power, we are going to subtract those exponents. 21 minus 3 is 18, so that's going to be x to the 18th. Since that's positive, we'll go ahead and leave it in the numerator. And then for our y's, we have y to the 13th over y to the 7th. Again, power divided by power, we're going to subtract. 13 minus 7 is 6, so we're going to get y to the 6th. And you can either think of this as all underneath that sixth root, or you can think of this as raised to the 1/6 power. Remember, if we have a power raised to a power, we are going to multiply those exponents. So when we multiply those exponents, doesn't matter which form we're looking at, if we take the sixth root of x to the 18th, and we can look at these separately, because they are multiplied. If they were added or subtracted, then we would not be able to simplify this any further. But since they're all multiplied together, we can. So power raised to a power, we're going to multiply those exponents. X to the 18th to the 1/6 means x to the 18 times 1/6. And then y to the 6th times 1/6. 18 times 1/6 is 3, so that's going to be x cubed, and 6 times 1/6 is 1, and so we get just y to the 1st. So this is going to simplify to x cubed y. All right, our next one was all in the exponential format. We've got our fraction here in the numerator. We've got the quantity x squared y cubed raised to the 5/7 power times xy raised to the 1/7 power, all over x to the 2/7 times y to the 2/7. Now in this setup, I'm actually going to expand and simplify our numerator as much as possible, and then we'll look at reducing that fraction. So again, just like we saw in the previous example, we've got a power raised to a power. We're going to multiply those exponents. X squared to the 5/7 is going to be x to the 2 times 5/7, and 2 times 5/7 is multiplying across the top, gives us 10/7. Y to the 3rd to the 5/7 is going to be y to the 15 over 7. And then xy raised to the 1/7, we can raise each of those pieces to the power, x to the 1/7, y to the 1/7. Don't forget about your denominator. So that's all over x to the 2/7 times y to the 2/7. And then now I'm going to simplify our numerator. If we have a power times a power, we're going to add those exponents. We've got a common denominator already of 7. And so x to the 10/7 times x to the 1/7 simplifies to x to the 11/7. Y to the 15/7 times y to the 1/7. We're going to add 15/7 plus 1/7, and that's going to give us y to the 16/7 all over x to the 2/7 times y to the 2/7. Now we have a power divided by a power with the same base, so we can subtract those exponents. And so we're going to get 11/7 minus 2/7 gives us 9/7. So that's going to simplify. Our x power is going to be 9/7. Y power, we're going to have 16/7 minus 2/7, which is 14/7, and that reduces to 2, so we'll get y squared. And that will be as simple as we can get that one. All right, our last example here, the only thing that's going to be different is we're throwing in a coefficient. So in the numerator, we have the entire quantity, 125, x to the 4th, y to the negative 1/4. All of that is raised to the 2/3 power. And then in the denominator, we have x squared, y to the 4th, all raised to the 1/3 power. So again, a couple of different routes we could take on simplifying this one. I tend to look just at the numerator and simplify that as much as I can, and then the denominator. So if we split this up, we do have 3 pieces here. We've got the 125, we've got our x term, our x factor, and then our y factor. We're going to have each of those, they're all multiplied, so we can multiply them each raised to the 2/3 power. So we get 125 raised to the 2/3 times x to the 4th raised to the 2/3 times y to the negative 1/4 raised to the 2/3, all over. Do the same thing in the denominator. We've got x squared, y to the 4th. We can write each of those raised to that 1/3 power. So x squared to the 1/3 times y to the 4th to the 1/3. All right, if we simplify 125 to the 2/3, we can rewrite that. Anytime we have a rational exponent, we can write that as a radical. Whatever number is on the bottom of our exponent is telling us what the index is on our root, and then whatever is on the top of our radical is giving us the power that we're raising this to. So the cube root of 125, that's 5 squared, and 5 squared is 25. So our coefficient, 125 raised to the 2/3, simplifies to just 25. When we have a power raised to a power, remember we multiply those exponents. So 4 times 2/3, we can write that as 4/1, and that's going to simplify to 8/3. So we get x to the 8/3. Then we have y to the negative 1/4 to the 2/3. Again, multiplying that, we get negative 1/4. Negative 1/4 to the 2/3. And then negative 1/4 times 2/3. We can simplify that. We've got a 2 in the numerator and a 2 in the denominator. We can divide out. And that's going to simplify to negative 1/6. So we get y to the negative 1/6 power. In the denominator, x squared to the 1/3 is going to be x to the 2/3. And y to the 4th to the 1/3 is going to be y to the 4/3. When we keep simplifying, we've got powers divided by powers. We can subtract those. So x to the 8/3 minus x to the 2/3. 8/3 minus 2/3. That's going to give us 6/3, which simplifies to 2. So that's going to positive 2 means that it's going to be in the numerator. For our y values, we've got y to the negative 1/6 minus 4/3. We need to get a common denominator there, so multiply top and bottom here by 2, and that's going to be negative 1/6 minus 8/6, which is negative 9/6. And negative 9/6 reduces to negative 3/2. Since that's a negative number, that means it's going to be on the bottom. And our power is going to be that positive 3/2. And so this expression simplifies to 25x squared over y to the 3/2. All right, I'll see you guys next time.